Welcome to episode 226 of the Family Meeting Podcast. We're glad that you're with us for this recording.
We are back.
And
them kids out of here.
The kids took over, but not this week. We are in in record-breaking temperatures in Florida. So it's snowing in Florida, not where we live.
Thankfully, not where we live.
I'm so thankful, but it's close.
North of here, there's snow, there's ice.
45 minutes north, we would be in snow. It's just unheard of. And it's so funny because people are outside making snow angels in 2 inches of snow and stuff.
And tiny little snowmen.
They're trying to make...
They've never done it in their entire lives.
Yeah, they're having snowball fights and stuff. It's really cute. But we're thankful that we don't have snow. Even though it is way too cold for what we wanted when we moved to Florida. But that's
everybody all over town is hoping we would have gotten snow here, and I'm just like, no.
Nope, we've seen it, been there, done that. We're good.
Otherwise, I got to start looking for places to live further south from here.
Yeah, I'm not moving. So this episode is all about the fledgling stage. We have coined that term ourselves, the fledgling stage. It's before empty nest, but it's after that season of life where you're this family unit that does everything together and kind of moves in sequence. And I'm coming up on my 40th birthday here.
Yep.
Which is so hard to believe.
Party coming up on Saturday to celebrate, but her birthday is the 31st. So
yes,
still 10 days or so.
Yep. I'm going to enjoy my 30s
while you're a young lady.
Last minute. But my sister is here from Iowa, and she's helping put this party on for me with Thomas. And one of the things that she has done for me is she's giving me a gift every day, which is the sweetest thing ever. And the first gift that I got, I'm actually using it because it's so cold. It's a blanket. And it's the softest, warmest thing. But it made me cry. And I'm going to try to talk about it today and show you without crying.
Good luck.
It is a blanket for when I get sad when my girls are gone. And it has all of the girls' names on it, and we're all holding hands. So do you want to help me see it? Let's see if we can show you two.
See if we can get an idea. It's got all their names on it. Let's see. Here's the mom hand is right here that says Lysandra.
Violet's up here. Abigail's over here. Isabella down there.
Yep.
Yeah. And Abigail. And so and Catherine's on here too. So all 5 of us are holding hands on this blanket, and it is the sweetest gift.
And as usual, Dad's left out.
How does Dad feel?
Story of my life.
Does Dad feel okay about that?
Yeah, just left out, forgotten.
Yeah.
That's the hard thing about being the only guy in the family.
Yeah.
Everybody just forgets you're there until they need a jar opened.
That's true. That is when I go to you.
They're like, hey, Dad, can you open this?
We also go to you with tech stuff.
Yeah. Most of it has to do with
better?
opening things like cans and jars and...
Yes. He's our hero.
Yeah, so...
You are needed.
Just not needed enough to be on the actual blanket.
It's a mother-daughter thing.
Yeah.
It's okay, baby. We love you. You're important to us.
Yeah, I can tell.
All right, but we need to go ahead and get started on our recording today. We are going to be talking about, the kids moving on and gaining independence and stuff. So we'll see. What do you think? Can you do this episode without crying?
Me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can.
Are you excited about this stage?
Not excited about it. No, there's things that are weird about it. It is weird when we go on a family function and there's only 4 or 5 of us instead of all 6. So
yeah, it's tough.
But
I don't care for it, but we're surviving. So we're going to just talk about that today. Maybe you've already been here before, but we'll see what we have to say, and then maybe at the end you can share your ideas.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you too.
We can use any help we can get.
Absolutely.
So gather around, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas, and this is my wife, Lysandra.
Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 226 of the Family Meeting Podcast. We're glad that you're with us today. We're happy to be back.
We're back.
Last week, the girls took over the podcast. They had a lot to say about things that you should and shouldn't say to your kids. They told some stories.
They did. They told some stories.
Yeah.
It was, there were some times where I was laughing and sometimes where I was cringing.
Yeah, cringing is the word.
Yeah. I didn't didn't come off well there, but hey, the truth is the truth, and we told the girls, speak the truth, right? Be honest.
Yes.
So
on today's episode, we're going to discuss the phase of parenting no one seems to talk about. I know that I have not been prepared for this. It's the phase actually that we're in right now. This season is what we're in right now. So we want to talk about it while it's fresh, while we're in it, while we're experiencing it, while it's raw, and we want to share it with you. And this is the phase between teen years and empty nest, because there is quite a season that takes place in between teen years and empty nests. And there really isn't a term for this season that I could find at all. Like, I looked all over the internet and stuff and trying to find what do people call this stage, and there's really not much of a term for this family transition. So we've come up with our own term. We're calling it the fledgling stage. And so on today's...
birds are getting ready to leave the nest.
That's right, but they're not gone yet.
Not quite.
They're kind of spreading their wings, trying it out, coming back. And so on today's episode, we're going to explain all of that a little deeper and share with you what we're going through.
Before we jump into that, though, we've got a couple of events coming up, and we want to make sure that you have your calendars marked. We would love to see you at any of our events this year, but I want to highlight these two because they're literally just right around the corner. So the first one is February 20th to 22nd, so just over a month, around a month away right now.
Right, yeah.
So we're just 4 weeks out or so, and that is going to be in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and we are so excited about that event. Such a great area of the country.
Yes.
And so a lot of our friends and listeners who live in that area of the country, we would love to be able to see you. And then just a couple of weeks after that, we're going to be over in Pekin, Illinois, in that area of the country, the Midwest, March 7th through 9th. And I know that we already have some of our friends from the Midwest who've signed up and registered to be there. Just want to talk about the schedule for just a second on that event. Let me pull it up here.
Yeah, we're really excited to be back in the Midwest as well. We have so many friends from there, and that's where both Thomas and I grew up, is in the Midwest. So it's kind of like going home.
Yeah, so we're very excited about that. Let me see. I've got it right here. Okay, so things are going to kick off Friday from 5 to 6:30 with kind of open snack bar for all hotel guests. You can, if you just want to attend and not stay at the hotel, you can do that as well. We posted those links on our social media already for you to get registered for that. And then session 1 starts at 7. Goes from 7 to 9:30. That'll be kind of a late night for us.
Well, especially because their 9:30 is our 10:30.
Yeah, so
So we're usually in bed at 8:30, guys.
I may have to have an extra energy drink or two on hand for that. So great start to Friday. And then Saturday, they're doing between 7 and 9 a.m. They're doing made-to-order breakfast for all hotel guests.
Sounds amazing.
Session 2 starts at 9.
Okay.
And then session 3 starts at 11. And that'll finish out the official retreat that they're doing. But we're going to be speaking at the church on Sunday and about marriage and continuing and finishing up the series that they're going to be doing at their church. So really excited about that event and seeing some of our friends who are going to be there and some of our listeners who are plan to attend. So you can get registered for that right now. Just go to Family Meeting social media and you can find the links for that.
Okay.
So,
sounds great.
We'll see you all soon.
Can't wait. I love having the opportunity to meet our listeners and interact with them and meet new people and make new friends.
Yeah, it's great to have conversations rather than just kind of a one-way.
Yeah, talking into the microphone.
So,
okay, so let's get into our topic today about the fledgling stage. We did a podcast episode last year discussing the seasons of parenting. It actually may have been 2 years ago now.
Looking at the number that you wrote down, it's got to be 2 years ago.
It's got to be 2 years ago. It's episode 106. We talked about all of the seasons of parenting and what it's like going through these seasons and kind of some of the challenges of each season, some of the benefits of each season. So here is what we presented to you in episode 106, we talked about the nurturing stage, which is the baby stage. Like it's that first time when the babies are born. Then we moved into the training stage. So this is toddlers transitioning from babies into toddler stage. Then we talked about the guidance stage. This is around elementary school. Middle school is the apprentice stage. And then the teen stage is the coaching stage. And then we kind of skipped the season that we are in right now and went to the friendship or adult stage. But there is this season in between coaching and friendship that takes place, and it's really challenging. It's where we're at right now, and we're calling it the fledgling stage. So this is right before empty nest. Your nest is not empty, but it also is not the same as it used to be.
So we're kind of calling this stage of teenagers entering the workforce and transitioning into college the fledgling stage. I know some of you have made your way through this stage already. We've got some friends who are in the same place that we are. And then, of course, we've got people who are just now having kids. And it feels like this fledgling stage is a million years away.
When you have little kids.
Yeah, when you've got the infants and the small little babies, we just babysat.
Oh my goodness.
6-month-old for a couple in our church.
Sweetest little baby boy in the world.
And so he spent the night over here.
Couple of nights,
yeah. So we were kind of reminiscing about that baby infant stage, and I was just reminded of how long those days felt sometimes, how long some of those nights felt.
It can be exhausting.
And so it feels like you're going to be stuck in that stage forever. But here's what happens. People told me this. I didn't believe them. I'm going to tell you, you're not going to believe me. You're going to turn around and you're going to be in the fledgling stage.
It's so true.
Where your child is pretty much grown and they've got a job and they've got their independence and they're going to classes, and man, it's just crazy. It's when your nest is not empty yet, but your children are going out of the nest and returning. They're going off to college, coming back on the weekends. I think about our daughter, second born, Isabella. She's taking college classes in Daytona, and she's got a job at Dunkin'. So like, she'll often work the late shift. She'll go to work at 3. She'll get off at 11. I'm asleep before she gets home. And so there's mornings where I wake up and it's like that. I feel that dad thing. Like, did she make it home okay? Did she make it home safe? And so I'm getting up early, get ready to go to the gym. Okay, the car's here. I know she's safe. She's home. And so you think about those birds, though, when they practice flying and return to the nest. And this behavior is often referred to as fledging or fledging practice.
And fledging is, like, just to understand why we're calling it this, fledging is the process where young birds begin to learn how to fly. They become a little more independent. During this stage, they leave the nest, but they may not yet be fully capable of sustained flight. So they can fly, but they can't necessarily have sustained flight. And they often return to the nest or stay really close by as they build strength, refine their flight skills, and gain confidence. Sound familiar? It's an important step in their development where they learn to navigate their environment while still being supported by their parents.
And here's something that I find quite interesting, and maybe as a parent this is something you might have to do, but some birds, like parent birds, mama birds, will throw the kids out of the nest and be like, okay, it's time to learn how to fly. Like, you've got to start practicing. And so you may have some kids like that where it's like they don't want to fly. They don't want to leave your house. They don't want to go out on their own. And so part of parenting is helping them through that process. But, you think about these fledglings, and that can look like brief flights or hopping from branch to branch. It's this gradual process before the bird becomes fully independent. And here's one of the things Lysandra and I talked about that we believe one of the most difficult aspects of this stage is the emotional challenge of letting go.
Yes.
You're so used to controlling every aspect of your child's life and being there to protect them and guide them and everything else. And now it's to a point where it's like, okay, I'm not controlling every aspect of their life anymore, of where they're going and what they're doing.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of emotional things you've got to deal with.
Yeah, and you're not just letting go of, the control of the child. You're not just letting go of the child themselves. You're also letting go of a family dynamic that once was.
Yeah.
Like,
that's the thing that didn't kind of hit me. Like, I didn't understand at first how that would hit me.
Yeah. How did it hit you? Like,
it's just, I don't know. I don't know the best way to describe it. It's just, when we have family days, like Friday's our family day. And there are times because of work or school or something else where one or two of our girls can't come. And so the whole family's not there. And it's like, you just have this routine for how many years of your life where we get in the van and it's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us. And then you're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, they're not all here. Or we go on a family trip somewhere and it's like, oh, they're not all here. And so I don't know how to describe it other than just it's this. I can't put my finger on the exact emotion, but it's just this emotional thing. I don't know if it's just like a sadness or what it is.
Is it a weight? Kind of feels heavy.
No, I don't. No, I don't know how to describe it.
For me, it feels like pieces are missing. Pieces that are so vitally important in your life are missing, and so it almost feels like there's a hole that is just empty right there.
Sure.
And you know that it has to be empty and it's the right thing and it's normal and it's good. But it still hurts to have those pieces missing. So that's kind of how I describe it, but it is really difficult. And I'll tell you the first time that I really felt this stage was, November, December of just this past year. So we're in January now. So we're talking 2 to 3 months ago now.
Yeah.
It's the first time we really experienced this. When our firstborn, Catherine, graduated high school, she chose to just do classes at Daytona State College, which is a local college, community college, and to build her own cleaning business, which is awesome because she has flexibility. So she doesn't schedule clients on Fridays. She could still be there for family day.
Yeah. She's actually off cleaning a couple houses right now.
Yep. So when we have an event at church, we can tell her like, hey, this event's happening at this time. And she'll schedule her clients around it. So for her entire first year of being graduated and all of that, nothing changed for our family.
Not a lot. No.
Really.
Yeah.
The change happened in November when Isabella got a job at Dunkin', which is a job where your boss puts you on the schedule and you have to show up. And that's very different than what Catherine is doing. And so all of a sudden here, we're having to make choices where she's saying, Mom, I have to either work Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, what do you mean?
I want Christmas Eve and I want Christmas Day with my daughter, right? So now we're making choices here, So as a family, we're having our family meetings and we're like, okay, what's most important to us, having Christmas Eve or Christmas Day? And we made the choice Christmas Day, like ask off for Christmas Day and work Christmas Eve. We're thinking, of course. Well, then what happens is Christmas Eve comes and we have our annual Christmas Eve service by candlelight. We have the photo backdrop. We go to get our family picture and there's 5 of us. And it feels like someone took a knife and just stabbed my metaphorical heart.
Yeah.
And it hurt to get that picture. Like, I love the kids who are there, and it's not that they're any less important to me, but one of my children is gone. And oh my gosh, that hurt, that like empty void that's there. So of course we take the picture, we're smiling and we're happy and we're enjoying this event and everything, but something is missing and it's a daughter, right? So then we come home and we put dinner in the oven and we're waiting for it to cook, and it's
shepherd's pie. That's our tradition.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve, shepherd's pie.
Yep. And so then it's like, okay, can we wait to eat it until Isabella gets home? And we want to open the one Christmas Eve package, but we got to wait for our daughter to get home. And all of these like thought processes, all of these things that come into your mind all of the family dynamics, it all hurts.
Yeah.
It just stings a little. And so that's kind of where we're at right now.
Well, and the Christmas Eve thing didn't hit me at all. The way that it hit you. The thing that hit me was when we went to South Carolina for Anna's graduation from college, which is my friend Rusty. He's the executive pastor and worship pastor at our church. His daughter graduated from college, so we went up to support them and to see her walk and stuff. And our two oldest had to stay home because of work.
Yep.
And so it was just us and the two youngest, and that was when it was kind of real for me. So,
yeah. And what we want to kind of help you with is to understand, if you have small children, know that this is coming. I think it helps to know it's coming. It doesn't make it not hurt, but it helps to know it's coming and you can kind of mentally prepare for it. I don't think we mentally prepared for it. We've been mentally preparing for empty nest. We didn't prepare for this season mentally, emotionally. I didn't. Did you?
Well, and this is part of the preparing for empty nest. It's just, I expected it to hit when they were actually gone.
Right. Me too.
And not before that. So I just figured, everything would feel the same because they haven't moved out of the house yet.
Yes. And it just is not the same. Everything changes. And so we want you to understand that the feelings that you will have, or maybe if you're in it now, the feelings you are having are normal. And we just want to talk through some of it with you. One of the things you have to understand is that parents may struggle with feelings of loss. Like, it can actually feel like you're grieving a loss. It might be worry. So there are a lot of emotions that come into this.
When you talk about feelings of loss, right? You're mourning what your family was.
Yes, and that's what I'm feeling.
And that's kind of the hard part.
I think that's the biggest feeling that I have had, is like I'm mourning the loss of the family dynamic that we used to have. We have a good family dynamic still, but it is not the same. Yeah. And I would dare say it's not as good because we don't get to all be together as much. So it's just not as good, in my opinion. But you can worry about your kids so much as they become a little bit more independent. And you think about that bird that watches their little baby bird, like, take the first flight and see if they're going to make it. I feel like I'd be just so worried. And that's kind of what it feels like.
I kind of felt that when our daughters got their driver's license.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Went on their very first drive.
Yeah, alone.
By themselves.
Yeah.
So remember when Catherine did it, and Catherine is a very cautious driver anyway. So I felt better about that one, but it was still like, okay, like, is something going to happen? Is she going to come home? Is there going to be an accident? Like, what's going to happen? And I the same feelings I had when Isabella went out.
Yes.
Isabella is a little more assertive in her driving. And so, I don't know, maybe there's a little more fear there, but I mean, she is a good driver. But
yeah, they both are. They're doing great.
That was that, like, hey, this bird is flying out.
Yes.
For the first time by themselves.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I can do.
Right.
I just have to sit here and wait for them to get home.
Yes. And there's worry that goes along with that. And we need to turn that worry into prayers and trusting in God. But this stage does require this shift from like hands-on parenting to now, okay, we're just offering guidance from a distance. And it's also difficult to manage that shift in the relationship and navigate it. What is this like now? This is not me just saying like, you're going to do this, 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 and this. Now it's me saying like, you can leave at 6, but you have to be home at 10. And what happens in between 6 and 10, you really have no control or even knowledge of sometimes. Like, we have the Find My Phone, yes. So we know where they're at, but like what they do, it's now more of a guidance thing, right? So this is a relationship shift, and it's hard. Kids gain more autonomy, and parents now have to navigate the new dynamics in the relationship. And there's gonna be bumps on the road, so prepare for that and be okay with that. Now, they might need to adapt. As a parent, you might need to adapt more of a supportive figure rather than being like directly involved with day-to-day events and decisions and what they do. And so this is difficult, and it's okay for you to make mistakes and maybe overstep your boundary or to realize like, oh, I gave them too much freedom here. I've got to pull that back. All of that is part of navigating this new relationship shift. So when that happens, and this is like literally how we've handled it, is we've said, okay, we gave you too much freedom there because we wanted to like let you be an adult, but we're realizing now you haven't handled that freedom really well. And that's on us, really. We've given you too much freedom. So we need to reel that in. So maybe it's something as simple, and this is something that I had to talk to the girls about, is how late they're staying up. Like, you're staying up, we're giving you more freedom and letting you choose what time you go to sleep. But I can see you're not giving yourself enough sleep and it's affecting your behavior. So I want you to make a better choice. What time do you think you should go to sleep? So you see, we're pulling back a little freedom, but we're also still not saying you will go to bed at this time. And it is a total like trial and error thing. See how they do. If they didn't do so great, okay, now we're backing off and back and forth.
And then on the other side of that coin is true as well, where it's like they're doing well, and so more freedom granted. And there is this challenge between balancing support with independence. Mm-hmm. And as parents, you will often face the challenge of knowing when to offer help and when to step back.
So true.
And there's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure along with that. You've got to learn, and we're learning this, to strike a balance between providing support when needed and encouraging self-reliance, especially as kids navigate challenges and opportunities on their own.
Yeah.
And you've kind of been doing this a little bit with Catherine in the kitchen, trying to balance between giving support and letting her learn how to do it and to do it on her own. And so she's made a few things where it's like, oh, that's you did excellent. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think of this too with things like doctor's appointments, right? You know, your whole life you've been making your kids doctor's appointments. And now you've got a 19-year-old and you're like, okay, I don't have to be mommy on this. Like, here's the phone number, call the chiropractor and make an appointment, right? And I think sometimes our kids are just lazy. Like, it's just easier for someone else to do it. Let me have my personal assistant call and make the appointment. But it's something as simple as that, and trying to navigate like, okay, when is the time that I stop calling the doctor and making the appointments? When is the time that I stop holding the insurance card and pass it off to them and trust them with it? Just simple things like that as far as the support and independence go. And one of the reasons though too that it is so hard to like start letting go of your kids in this stage is that there can be anxiety about whether your child's going to make good decisions, or are they going to form healthy relationships and friendships? Are they going to manage their time effectively? Are they going to sleep enough and work enough and study enough and all of those things? And there's so much anxiety that can go with that. And so it just makes it so much harder to let go.
Now, coping with the fledgling stage can be challenging for parents. And I would maybe change that to say it is challenging for parents.
Yes.
But there are several strategies that can help you to navigate this stage more effectively. The goal is to get to acceptance and understanding. That's where we want to be.
You know, I have to admit, like, getting to the stage, to the point of acceptance took me a little while.
Are you there?
I think I am. Like, for a while, it was just like, there was a part of me that wanted to kind of like bargain. It was like I was going through the stages of grief, denial, like, this isn't really happening. I don't want this to happen. And then bargaining, like, okay, how can I make it so that all my kids are at everything that happens that's special? You know, because there's a lot of special things that happen in life.
Well, especially for us, because we like to celebrate everything.
We celebrate everything. Everything is a weekend trip for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how can I like make this happen? And I'm trying to like bargain with it. And of course, depression definitely came, and acceptance is the last thing. Now I may swing back and forth between some of those stages, but I'm
sure you will as certain events come up and kids are not able to be there.
Yes, absolutely. And then of course it's going to not just be Catherine and Isabella, but it's going to, now Abigail is right right on the cusp of this as well. And then Violet will be right behind them. And so I'm sure that I'll kind of go through these stages of grief all over again. But acceptance is the goal, right? That's the goal, is to get to the point where like I accept this stage of life and it's okay.
And what's interesting about just our family dynamic, for those of you that maybe don't know, we do have 4 daughters, and there's basically 14 months in between them.
Each of them.
So for 5 years, 6 years, it's like you're in the infant stage, and then you're in the toddler stage, and now we're in the teen stage. And so we're going to have like 5 or 6 years of being in the fledgling stage.
Yeah.
And I think if things progress the way they have for us, with every child that comes along and begins to go through it, we're going to have to replay some of these emotions and feelings. And I think we have a greater understanding of this is a natural and positive step in the child's development, but you still have to walk through it.
That's right. Just because you know it's coming or you understand it doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah, and so part of learning how to navigate through this is to recognize that their growing independence is a sign of success in parenting, even if it feels difficult. It is a sign that you have done and are doing what you're supposed to be doing. Because as we talk about all the time on here, the goal is to raise, adults who can make an impact in this world. And so that's naturally going to be a part of it. Is they're out on their own, they have their independence, they can do it.
So one kind of piece of advice that I would give you if you're in this stage or when you get there is while you're going through all of this, don't push away the emotions that you're inevitably feeling. Okay, so we've been talking about how we've been feeling about this. And part of the reason we can verbalize that to you and talk to you about it is because we've already felt our emotions. We've allowed ourselves to feel and to talk about it.
So for those of you who watching on YouTube, you saw the gift Lysandra got for her 40th birthday from her sister. For our podcast listeners, you obviously can't see it. You have to go to our YouTube video to watch it. But it's a blanket, and it's got a hand, and it says Lysandra on it, and then there's 4 little hands grabbing onto that hand that have each of the girls' names on it. How did you do emotionally when you got the blanket?
Well, first of all, on the wrapping paper, my sister wrote, "This gift is for when all of your girls are gone and you still want to feel cozy with them," or something like that. And so I was like, oh gosh, what is this going to be? And I opened it and I just put my whole face in the blanket and cried. I just cried into this blanket, like such a nerd. And then I gave her a hug and of course thanked her, and I'm crying on her shoulder, and then looking at it again, I tear up, and it's been very emotional. Yes.
But the point is, feel the emotions. That's good. That's a good thing.
Absolutely. Because I think so often we try to push it away, and you got to face your feelings. It does not help you to push them away. So here's what I recommend. Take some time to sit in your feelings. I did this the other day when it was all kind of starting out back in November, December. And we talked about it briefly on another podcast episode, telling you that this episode was coming. But I came home from the gym, and on the way home, I was like, okay, I have a few minutes here. I know that I'm sad about the change that's happened in our family. I need to let myself think about it, because when you're in the middle of it and you're about to go to work or you're about to have a meeting, you can't sit and cry. This isn't the time to sit and cry. So what do? We take those emotions and we push them away, or we bottle them up, or we lock them in a box, and we say okay, you'll have to wait till later. The problem is when we say wait till later over and over and over and over. Yeah. So I knew I've got 10 minutes. I'm driving home, and then I have a few more minutes before I have to get ready for my first meeting. So I just let myself cry. I let myself think about it. So I started thinking about what it would be like for Isabella not to be there Christmas Eve. And I started thinking about how sad I was that we had to take that trip without the older 2. And I allowed myself to really talk to God, not out loud, but in my mind, and just say God, I am really sad that this other season of our parenting and our family is gone. It will never come back.
Yeah.
And I let myself feel that. And of course, then the tears just come and I'm weeping and I pull into the house, into the driveway, just weeping. And then what did you do?
Well, the thing is, if you just keep pushing down the emotions and you don't take time to deal with them and to face them and sit in them and kind of give them over to God, those emotions are going to come out in other areas of your life in some way, shape, or form, whether it's through anger or frustration or shortness with your family members. So we like to believe we're just pushing them down and everything's normal, but they do leak out in other ways because that pressure just continues to build and build and build and build, that emotional pressure, and then it's like it may not come out as tears or sorrow. It may come out in anger or some other thing. And so this is an important step in the process, is taking time to actually sit in them and feel them and work through them.
So when I pulled into the driveway, Thomas was being Thomas, and we love Thomas because he is the fun one. He is like always goofy. So like I pull into the driveway and he's like dancing for me. I'm trying to remember what else you were doing. You were just being so goofy. And he comes up, like I pull in far enough where he's at my window and then he realizes like, oh, my wife is crying and I'm dancing. And so you apologized right away. I rolled down the window. You apologized. And you're like, what happened? What's wrong? Because we saw each other just a few seconds ago at the gym.
Yeah, it was like 10 minutes prior to this, everything was great.
Yeah, but I just had allowed myself to feel it. And so I was like, no, it's okay. You're
like I wasn't planning on seeing somebody in the driveway before I came in the house.
Yeah. I said, no, I'm not mad. I know that you weren't trying to be like heartless or anything. And I explained to him why I was crying, and I kept crying as I'm talking about it and everything. And of course, he opens my door and he just holds out his arms and he holds me, hugs me in the driveway. So I was just able to cry on Thomas's shoulder. And so the other side of this, feeling your emotions, is allowing your spouse to feel their emotions. Okay, so Thomas allowed me to feel my emotions and he just supported me. He held me. He wasn't trying to fix anything because you know what? Nothing really needs fixed. Nothing needs fixed. We're not trying to change this. This is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But I've got to face those feelings, and it's nice to have somebody to say, just cry on my shoulder. I'm here with you. We're going to hurt together through this. So as you feel those emotions, verbalize them to God, verbalize them to yourself. Like it's okay to say like, Lysandra, you feel sad right now. It is okay to verbalize that to yourself and verbalize it to your spouse. Let them in on it because they need to know where you're at. How badly is this hurting? Is this causing you to feel depressed? Is it causing you to just be sad? Is this causing you anxiety? Are you feeling worry? Let them in on it so that they know. And if it's appropriate, also verbalize your feelings to your children. And this is something I had to do. I had to put the car in park. When we were grocery shopping, all 4 of my girls were with me and we were all going to go like do this big grocery haul. And the girls snapped at me and I snapped back at them about the schedule because a mom reached out to me and said like, we want to have your girls over. So I scheduled something without talking to my girls about it because guess what? The last season, that's how I did it. But this is a new season and I can't do it that way anymore.
Yeah.
But you get into these patterns, right? And so like I didn't even realize I did it. So one of my girls was frustrated with me because I scheduled something when she had already scheduled something with another friend or work. I can't remember which. But anyway, so like she snaps at me, I snap at her. And then everybody, like the whole minivan is full attention, right? So I stopped the car and I turned around and I said, you guys, we are going to have to be gentle with each other and give each other grace because this is a new season and none of us have done it before. So I was like, I have to get better about talking to you guys before I schedule things. You guys need to give me grace because to be honest with you, I am really sad. I was like, all I can tell you is like, I'm dealing with a lot right now emotionally. Like I am constantly pushing away tears. I'm constantly feeling sorrow when like new changes are happening, which are happening all the time. And I was like, I need you guys to help me through this. And so I had to tell my kids how I was feeling, and they're all old enough to handle it.
Well, and they need to get better, this is part of the conversation as well, get better at letting us know what they have going on.
Right. It's a two-way street,
so
for sure.
we literally just this morning had a conversation about this again, because one of our daughters basically was like, hey, can somebody give me a ride in 10 minutes over to grandma's house for X, Y, or Z? And it's like, how long have you known you were going to do this? Like,
yeah. And I said, like, you didn't tell me about this. And she goes, I did tell you. I said that I was cutting so-and-so's hair on Wednesday. And I'm like, dude, I don't know what time it is.
I don't know where.
Yeah, because she actually didn't say that it was at grandma's. She just said cutting someone's hair. I'm like, I didn't know if someone was coming here. Like, I need more information. And now you've like put me in a bind because I schedule my schedule like down to the minute. And so we're all working on this together.
Yeah.
And there's going to be bumps in the road, and realize that that's okay. Realize it's okay to be sad, to be hurt, to feel anxious. And I think that this is another feeling that can happen. I don't know that this has happened to me yet, but I could see it happening, is feeling hurt that your children kind of move on without you, which is supposed to happen. But like you can, I think maybe feel left out or left behind as your kids like do things without you. I have not really felt this yet because my kids are very good about including me. Like they want me to always come to everything if I can. But if or when that changes, I could see there being hurt feelings too. And so explaining that to your spouse, explaining that to God, to yourself, to your children, I think will all help you to get through this.
Well, and every one of those bumps in the road is an opportunity to learn and grow and have conversations on all sides, to work through it as best as possible. Mm-hmm. So another thing that can kind of help you navigate through this time in a healthy way and to view it from a healthy perspective is by celebrating milestones. Mm-hmm. And we often, I don't know what it is, something about most of us as human beings, we tend to focus in on the negative things.
It's just easier to see negative.
We see the empty seat at this holiday, that dinner, this family day, or whatever else, and we focus in on that instead of celebrating the good things that are happening. Attempt to focus on the excitement and pride of seeing your child reach this new chapter. So thinking about things like getting your first job. And so celebrating our daughter Isabella for getting her job at Duncan, and for the work she's doing in her college classes. Actually, just this morning, didn't know I was going to be talking about this, but just this morning, Catherine was getting ready to go out to work. And so I was asking her, how many jobs you got scheduled for today? And so she was talking to me about her jobs. And I just told her, like, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you for the work that you're doing to build your business and the time and investment that you're doing. And I said, we were just talking about the time that it takes to build up a business, and you just keep working at it. But I was celebrating with her on the jobs that she had and the work that she's doing. Your kid gets their first car, and celebrate those sorts of things. They pass their driver's test and they're driving up by themselves for the first time. And so rather than focusing on the negative aspects that we're feeling from that, or we could feel from that, making sure that we're focusing in on the positive and celebrating. And so if you need something to celebrate about your kids getting older, it's the fact that you don't have to drive them around everywhere. We don't have to pick up the other kids sometimes if we...
Yes.
Like last night was youth group, and I text Catherine. I said, hey, would you be willing to pick up your sisters from youth group? And she's like, yeah, I'd be happy to, or whatever. And it's like, yes, I don't have to go out at night. Once we get home, I'm home. So yeah, there are some negative things that we got to work through. They're negatives as far as our feelings. They're not actual negatives that your kids are growing up and gaining independence and all of those things. But rather than focusing on the negative feelings that we have, let's try to turn that to focus in on some of the positive things that are happening because of it.
Right.
I mean, it's easier said than done.
Way easier said than done. Yeah, it can be tough. But this next thing that I want to talk to you about has been essential for our family going through this. And that is create new communication routines, because everything changes. And whereas it used to be Mom keeps the family calendar, and every morning at coffee time, the girls would say, "What are we doing today?" And I would go through everybody's appointments and schedule for the day. And then I would talk about the next day. And we would do that every single day. What's happening today? What's happening tomorrow? And I kept everybody's calendar, and I also booked everything. And as we've said, that's not happening anymore. Now they're making their own plans. They have their own jobs. They have their own friends that they want to drive. You know, it used to be like they would only make friendship time when like they asked us first because we would drive them to and from. Now they can drive themselves. So that might be like, oh, I scheduled this night out with my friend. Oh, okay, great. We got to get that on the calendar. So how does this operate now? How does the calendar operate? How does communication operate? You've got to figure that out in this new season. So one of the best things that you can do is establish regular check-ins. And for us, this is our morning coffee time. Now, another change. Isabella is working until 11 at night. Then she comes home and, you know, most people don't just get off work and go to bed. Like you have to have a little decompression time, and she does. And so she may be going to sleep around midnight. So getting up for a 7 a.m. coffee is not as easy as it used to be. Now, sometimes she still will, but it's not all the time. So even our regular check-ins have changed a little bit in that Isabella isn't always at morning coffee time now, which, by the way, that also makes me very sad. And I have often wanted to cry about that. But maybe it's through phone calls. Maybe you're going to need to say, okay, in between your college class and your work, I need you to give me a phone call every day, and we're just going to make sure that we understand the calendar for the next 24 hours. Maybe it's through texting. I have Isabella text me a picture of her work calendar every single week. So when her schedule comes out, she texts me the picture, and I can refer back to that picture every time I'm scheduling things. But it could be a shared calendar. This is something that I still want for our family, is a shared calendar. Thomas is against it. And why are you against it?
I'm not against it personally. It's just, I just don't want to do it. So
he just doesn't want to do it. At least he's
honest. I'm not
honest.
against it.
He's honest. But whatever you need to do that to make your communication work. It's going to provide both you and your child and children sense of connection, and you're not going to be so overwhelmed and not going to have so many miscommunications or scheduling things that are messed up and whatnot. But it's not just communication about scheduling. It's also communication about, like we talked about, how you're feeling and how when they do this, it affects me this way. So like when you make plans without telling me, it's going to mess up my schedule with my plan. So let's all talk about this. So just more communication.
And I think one of the things we've got to do is share how we feel while listening to our children. Mm-hmm. And you've got to remember that you both see your own self as the main character in this story.
Yeah. Isn't that hard?
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was the kid who was graduating high school and about to go get married. And in my mind, it was all about me.
Yeah.
I'm getting married. I'm graduating. I'm going into the next chapter. But what I didn't understand is it was also really hard for my mom.
Yeah. Her last baby is leaving the house now and moving 1,000 miles away.
Yeah. And we're best friends. So like, it's not only that I was her baby, but I was her friend leaving. And I feel bad. I feel so terrible with how selfish I was at that. Feeling like I was the main character of the story when for her it was her story. And I've had to apologize to my mom. I took a minute and I just said, like, I'm really sorry for being selfish when I left the house and for thinking it was all about me.
Did she remember the situation? And
she did. She teared up a little bit when I told her that. She said, "Oh, honey, you were just being a normal, kid. Like you weren't." I think she tried to like soothe my feelings by saying I wasn't that horrible or anything. And I wasn't mean or anything, but I was just self-absorbed.
Yeah.
I just thought it was all about me. And I just told her like I was sorry that I didn't feel sensitive toward her feelings. And she kind of doesn't remember it the same way as I do. She remembers it being really hard and crying a lot and stuff, but thankfully she didn't view it as I was as selfish as I actually was. So I'm thankful for that.
But that's the thing. We look at things from our own perspective oftentimes. We are the main character of our story. And everybody else in it is a side character. Now, some characters, are more important than others. Lysandra is one of the main important characters in my story, but guess what? I'm still the main character.
Whatever. I'm the star of your story.
Yeah. There are times where you are.
I love you.
But our kids, they're such an important part of our story, but they're not the main thing. It shouldn't be the main thing. And our kids, they're the main hero character of their own story.
We are secondary.
And the older they get, the more secondary we become. And
until we're just extras.
And things like their friends become more important characters in the story than even parents oftentimes. Mm-hmm. And so you just have to kind of keep that in perspective. And one of the things we've got to do in understanding that is encouraging your child to express their feelings, challenges, and successes. And there's this transition that we've got to make in our mind. And I think Star Wars is a great way to kind of understand this a little bit.
Okay. You're going to have to help me out with that.
Because just think of the Star Wars, how it kind of happened, where you have Luke is this little child, and he's got Obi-Wan Kenobi is kind of leading and guiding him, right? And this transition takes place where as he grows, he matures. Now he is the one who moves away from being the main character, and it's the new young Jedis that are coming up that he is going to train, and it's almost like the focus shifts. Mm. And so we need to learn how to go from being the main character in the entire story in the family to my child is getting ready to move on their own, and I've got to step back from being the main character and be this kind of support character who's teaching, who's training, who's letting them go out into the battle and fight and all those sorts of things.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So you've got to have this transition into allowing your child to independently live their life and learn how to solve their own problems.
It's hard.
And then we're just a sounding board who offers support and guidance rather than solving all their problems. It's like there's certain issues where I can't solve it anymore. The issues my daughter has at work, or with one of her clients, or college professor, those are things that I'm not going to handle. I shouldn't handle. If you're handling those things, you're overstepping and doing things you shouldn't do for your kids. But I can be the sounding board. I can offer advice and suggestions on what they should do and how they should handle it. But ultimately, they've got to learn how to handle it. It's like the doctors and all that kind of stuff that we talked about. Eventually, there comes a point where they've got to transition. And if you want me to come to an appointment, like there's a particular appointment that is going to be more invasive or scary or whatever else, yeah, I'll come along and I'll be the emotional support and the encouragement. But, you've got to do it.
So I can tell you how I practically do this with my girls, and that is specifically, I'll share an example with you from Catherine, because Catherine is giving cleaning bids, she is scheduling clients, she is working with customer relations with her clients and all kinds of things. So she comes to me for advice often, very frequently. She will message me and she'll screenshot a conversation with a client and be like, how would you answer? So there are times when I tell her, I'm going to tell you what I would do, but I'm not telling you this is what you should do. I want you to know what I think, and then I want you to do the thing that you think is right. So I'm very happy to offer my opinion and my suggestions, but I don't necessarily want her to always take my opinion and do it, or my suggestion and do it. I want her to really think it through herself and then decide, because ultimately she has to live with the choice she makes, whether to give this client a discount or whether to work with someone who's difficult or whatever. So I will give her the advice, but I always tell her, this is my opinion and this is what I would do, but it doesn't mean it's what you have to do. I want you to make your own decision. So that's kind of a way that I practically do that.
Well, I think that's a good way to do it, because ultimately we're getting a little piece of the information, Like we're not there, we're not seeing it really, we're not experiencing it really. So this is the way that I'm viewing it from my point of view. You may see it a little differently. You may know a little bit of more information maybe I don't have at this moment. So you've got to make the right choice.
Right. And I have to admit, like, if I were to give in to my flesh and my own desires, I would just be like, give me the phone, I'll message them. I'll tell you exactly what to do, because I'm a control freak, okay, people? If you have listened to this podcast for any amount of time, you know I am the ultimate control freak. I want to control everything. I feel better if I can do that. So just make sure that you are aware of how much of a control freak you are. And remember that you've got to encourage some independence through this stage. You've got to let them handle their challenges. Resist that urge to fix every problem. I have that urge all the time. But allow your child to face those challenges and learn from their mistakes. It helps them to grow, and they become more resilient and more confident. They learn to trust their own judgment, or they learn that was the wrong decision and I've got to change that, right? So don't be afraid to show faith in your child's ability to make those decisions. This can help them, and it can strengthen your relationship.
So we have a lot of things we could continue to go in detail. We want to pinpoint just some things that we think will be a help, and then maybe we can talk about some of these in a later episode. But you talked about space. So one of the things is allowing a healthy emotional distance and just respecting their space and understanding your child may need a little bit of time to adjust to college and work life and figuring all that stuff out.
Yep. And along with that would go this, staying involved but not hovering. If you were ever a helicopter mom, this is not the season to do that. This is the time to break away from that and let them, be more independent. So, right, once again, you're going to be that supporting role rather than really organizing and controlling everything.
And here's something else that we're trying to do, and that is invest in your marriage relationship.
Yes.
Right? Because the goal all along has been for your kids to grow and leave the house and gain independence and make an impact. The one person who is not going to be leaving you is your spouse, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so you invest in that relationship. Just last night, we went on a date together, just the two of us. And we just continue to work on our marriage relationship. Keep investing in that.
That's right. And then another thing that you can do during this time that will help you to get through is to take care of yourself. You can be on this emotional roller coaster here. And so make sure that you are taking time for your own well-being. Time in prayer, quiet time with God, time in the Word of God, exercise, eating right, having your own friends. Your kids should not be your only friend. If your children are your only friend, you have an unbalanced life. Find some people that you connect with and make time for other people. And of course, make sure you're making time for your spouse.
Set new expectations and boundaries. As the seasons change, you've got to learn how to adjust household expectations. If your child is moved out or they're moving out, this requires some shift in household dynamics and learning how to respect their newfound independence and all of that, and teaching them to respect yours as well.
Mm-hmm. And I really believe in talking to other parents who have been here before. So find someone that has already gone through this, that still has a good relationship with their kids, and connect with them. Maybe you want to find somebody who has a terrible relationship with their kids and find out what they did and know what not to do, right? But it can be good to have somebody else to talk to who's already been there.
Maybe we need to start like a fledgling support group for parents.
Yes,
going
we
through
do.
This stage
This
where
is
we
hard.
can just commiserate with each other.
I like it.
But we've got to learn to be patient, and in two ways: be patient with yourself and with your child. And I like this story that Lysandra told about what happened with them when they were out shopping, and just, hey, we need to be patient with each other. This is a new season for all of us. And so let's give grace, let's give patience as we find our rhythm and establish a new healthy dynamic.
That's right. And here's the thing. Parenting through this stage is all about finding balance, that balance between, supporting and independence and all of this stuff, and the balance of the emotional sadness and yet joy for them and all of that. And it's a time for both parents and children to grow. And even though the process is going to be difficult, it's also incredibly rewarding as you watch your child evolve into an independent adult. And so understand that it's a process and it's tough, but it can be a really, really great thing.
So family meeting tonight's going to look maybe a little different depending upon your season and stage of parenting and life. So first of all, if you're in the stage, you're in this fledgling stage, your children are learning to fly on their own. They're still in the nest. They're still coming back. Not quite out all totally on their own yet. You're going to talk about this with your spouse, talk about it with your kids, just the difficulties, share what it is you're going through. It's be open, be honest, be real, be vulnerable, and work through some of those things. But I also want to encourage you in this conversation to celebrate the milestones, celebrate the good things that are happening. And this helps to give your child that confidence and support that they need from you. And maybe you could even ask them that question. You know, as you're entering this stage of more independence, what is it you need from me during this stage of life? And having that conversation. So you maybe need to talk about some ways, some tips for scheduling and all these things that we talked about already, but just have that be a part of your conversation. If you're not in this stage yet, and your kids could be infants right now, or maybe you're just pregnant with your first child, and when you're talking about this with your spouse, you're having a conversation that comes up with a tentative plan for how we're going to handle this. And you're beginning, even at the start, even though it feels like a million years away, you're starting to process and get ready for the next stages that are coming.
Thanks, friends, for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting Podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on your social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting. Now, listen, this episode was a lot about parenting.
Yeah.
Girls had the episode before this. So it's time to get to the nitty-gritty of your marriage relationship. We are going to talk about monotony in the bedroom.
Okay. So we're going to talk about how to get to the parent stage.
Yes. So sometimes things can become humdrum.
Well, you hear about that, like all the sitcoms and all the shows, right? Well, they've been married for over 21 years. It gets kind of boring.
Yeah, same old, same old. So how can you spice up your sex life and prevent sex with your spouse from a humdrum monotony? We want it to be exciting.
Finally, an episode.
Invigorating.
Finally, an episode I can look forward to.
Stimulating.
Okay, stop that.
Exciting. Okay.
Thanks.
Next week.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. We've got some homework, guys, so have a great week. This meeting is adjourned.
Great job.
Got some homework to do now.
Thomas is very excited about next week's episode.
My ears perked up. I was like, what?
He woke up for a change.
Like, what are we doing this week? Because we got to prepare for the episode. What are we doing? What do we got going on? I've just cleared my whole schedule for the week.
The whole week.
So.
I just made a bad face.
But this is a difficult season of parenting. Yeah. We shared a few things of what we're going with, what we're struggling, some things that have helped us, things we're trying to do. But some of you have been through it already. You're going through it right now, and you're able to say, hey, this worked for me, or this has been really helpful for us right now in this season. We'd love for you to put it in the comments, and I think that would be a help to other parents who are in that same season or getting ready to move into it. And that's one of the things we love about Family Meeting is it's not just about us sharing information for you. It's about a community of people coming together who have a lot of wisdom, a lot of experience, a lot of insight, and they're sharing that with each other. And you are an important part of that. So we appreciate the things that you share and how you're helpful to the other people in our community.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.